Good morning and welcome to yet another edition of Elephant in the Room. And today it is my singular honor and privilege to be interviewing Professor Yash Pal Ghai, really the father of Kenya's 2010 constitution, and also his partner, Dr. Jill Cotterell Ghai, who is also not in the frame. It's a great honor. Yash, I mean, I was trying to put together your profile yesterday, and all the different sources that I use are completely impossible to summarize. You have been, doing great work for so long in so many diverse parts of the world. However, I find it quite ironic that it is in your home country, Kenya, that constitution making has been the most, let me say, the most colorful and interesting of the many difficult areas that you have worked in. But thank you very much for joining us this morning, Yash. I just wanted to start perhaps with something which is a bit more current vis-a-vis the constitution, which you know better than many of us. As you know, and as we've all been reading, we've entered into political season in Kenya early. We have elections in 2022, and there is now considerable debate within the political class about changing the 2010 constitution, which is 10 years old this year, to make it more inclusive is the argument being given by the politicians, which seems to mean expanding the executive and other such measures, even though we haven't seen the final version of the Building Bridges Initiative task force report to know what actually they want. I just wanted to get in, Yash, you more than anyone have traveled the journey of the Kenyan constitution. And here we find ourselves at a point where already the product that emerged wasn't the bombas product that you shepherded, but now we're talking of changing it. What are your perspectives and sentiments at this moment as you watch this sort of perfect constitutional storm emerging in Kenya?
I have to say that I am deeply upset by the whole process of what is called BBI. I have, of course, been involved in constitution making, as you say, which has become the subject of this debate. But for me, I also have had to begin with an inside view of the start of this process.
Yes.
Well, it's very clear what you should do about it. And but then the whole thing has changed again and again and again. It is not at all the thing that it began with, in which I had good experience. And so it seems to me that they themselves are not clear what they want out of it. From the beginning to the present time, their emphasis, their way of thinking has been changing a great deal.
Yes.
So it's very hard to know what they are really talking about. If they started by saying, well, it's a great constitution, but people are not obeying it.
Yes.
What shall we do?
Yes.
Well, that was quite simple for them.
Yes.
But then it got on to, other elements of it, and then became extremely expensive effort. I personally believe this is utter nonsense, absolute nonsense. There is no meaning to it. And the methods they have used, highly expensive, huge meetings, are meaningless. I have been studying, this time I would read it, accounts by people who have been to meetings, and what is it about?
Yes.
I was able to attend only one meeting of the kind out of Nairobi, because somehow we were never informed and I couldn't go. And it is absolutely absurd.
Okay.
People who are speaking on behalf of the team haven't a clue what they're talking about. Most of them haven't read the Constitution.
No.
And so it became really very, I wouldn't say joke, because it was enormous sums of money that were being given. And as the process developed, or process is hardly a term,
Yes.
they changed their position about the Constitution more and more. At one stage, it just became a gathering of the large ethnic communities, which means the five. And that's all there was. Even now, when you look at it, people who gather together are ethnic leaders of these five communities.
Yes.
And a lot of people I talk to feel left out because they're not among these five tribes.
Yes.
I am very, very skeptical about the whole thing. I do not understand. Raila, as you may know, is a very close friend of mine.
Yes.
And I would say were the two persons most responsible for the Constitution of 2004.
Yes.
And then other people came in to mess it up, including Katiba. I mean, according again, top leaders of different tribes.
Yes.
And, they messed up that constitution as well,
Yes.
which I think the 2004 constitution is the best thing we have ever done.
Yeah.
As you remind me, I have written constitutions for about 14 countries.
Yes.
14 countries, big countries. And I've never seen a better constitution than the one we had in 2004. And why aren't they doing anything about that?
Yes.
If they were really serious. So they're not serious. But what are they not serious about? Not understand. I think what they really want, they have decided that we leaders of these five major tribes are going to take over the powers of the state completely. And there are other examples I can tell you about this.
Yes.
And if you look at what they are probably wanting to do now, they want to change the system so that there will be a few more offices built into the Constitution. And if you see how many, 5 new bodies were set up. 5 bodies? Yes, there are 5 tribes, we know that.
So it's deputy prime ministers and other top executive offices to accommodate these political.
It's. I mean, I have been studying this very, very carefully because I feel, well, men of Raila's ability couldn't be involved in all these things, and there are people who go to meetings. People who are asked to organize. Sometimes, of course, they can't go to all the meetings. I have been to 1 or 2 meetings out of Nairobi, and this chap has no idea what he's talking about. People in the room have no idea what they're talking about. And what we are saying is not just, upsetting our well-structured constitution, but the amount of money that has gone into it. And sometimes, one meeting I was there when they were saying, well, how can we afford all this? And someone laughed and said, our friend in Washington are helping us.
Oh, the best.
I don't know, they may have given some. They are stupid. Well, they're not stupid, they're over clever. And now I am being very critical.
Yes.
But I have reason to be.
Yes, yes.
I think they have messed up the whole process, which began with the 2004 Constitution. That Constitution itself was an attempt after the terrible years of Jomo and Moi, And we were at long last moving to a prospect where the Constitution will speak for us, to us, by us.
Yes.
And we were moving towards that in the, I think you were also involved or watched the whole process of about 2-3 years.
Absolutely.
Onwards.
Yes.
And everybody was involved, you know. They say we went to all the parts of the country. Well, we did. And we didn't tell them, we listened to them.
Yes.
So the Constitution represents people's views, aspirations, participation. Now, why aren't they doing something about that?
In fact, Yash, if I could just squeeze in a question there, because it's perhaps something which is not talked about enough. Everyone talks about the 2010 Constitution. And perhaps there's not enough discussion about the process. The process via which we arrived at the 2004 draft, the Bomas draft, involved you spending, together with your fellow commissioners and team, a huge amount of time traveling around the country, listening to Wananchi, and that's what came together in 2004 and gave it a legitimacy, which clearly this current process of the Building Bridges initiative really hasn't been the same at all. Can you give us, you know, as you've been involved in constitution making in 14 countries, can you just give us a bit of an overview of the importance of the process? That the document itself is one thing, but the process itself of getting citizens to participate and to feel that this constitution is something that, as you said, represents their aspirations, their hopes, and mitigates their fears and concerns.
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. I think the process of constitution making is extremely important. Many countries I have been involved in, there has been internal conflicts. People don't talk to each other. Country after country where I have been asked to help, there's been a lot of tension. And I spent the first few weeks just trying to understand what is going on. And there's a lot of tension. And I think the important thing is that the process take a form where people's understanding of each other takes place. They're not just being nasty, they have a good reason. Then finding some solution to those problems and involving them throughout.
Yes.
So that they feel they have made the decision. And that hasn't happened here, really.
No.
At least it happened in our 2004 process, but hasn't been happening since. They are just being given instructions by these 3-4 leaders, and then people have to accept it. So if you ask Kenyans, now what is happening? What changes you think take place? I doubt if many have any answer. I mean, I don't have a very clear answer, though I read a lot to follow what's going on. So it's very much a small group are organizing for us, not caring really about us. Now, this is the worst way to go about making a constitution.
Yes.
Not involving people. Just, you know, when they go to these meetings, I've only been to 2 or 3, people could keep on talking.
Yeah.
I mean, from the platform, but people themselves don't know what's happening. And 2 or 3 times the people asked by our friends to chair that thing hasn't a clue what he's cheering. I joke not, it is absolutely the truth. So we are now moving into maybe a big change in the constitution.
Yes.
People don't know what it's all about.
No.
And the attitude or the plans about change by these people changes from time to time.
Yes.
And now you see when we have the conflict between Ruto and somebody else,
Yes.
The whole thing to change day by day. So if they had a really good framework, they could handle all this. They can't handle this. They become in a panic.
Yes.
So I feel we are in terribly bad hands. Raila, I always have respected him. We've been extremely good friends. I was temporarily the head of his office when he was prime minister.
Uh-huh.
And I quit after a while because I saw so much corruption in his own office. And by telling him frequently, you have to get rid of these people, he would not. So after about a month, I quit. So I am speaking from considerable experience of how these things are done. And I think we are in great danger that people who are energetic, who are extremely bright, as Kenyans are, I can tell you that.
Yes.
Comparing many countries I worked in, there's a lot of energy in this country,
Yes.
a lot of enthusiasm, but we are killing it.
Yes.
Third-rate people are now running our country,
Yes.
rather than people who are involved, who are interested, who want to help their people. These people are just interested in themselves.
Yes.
And the 5 tribes.
Yes.
And even if you look at what is being proposed in the creating of new positions, well, it's 5. Once it's 5, fine, you can wash your hands,
Yes.
and the 5 are brothers.
Yes.
That really is the truth. I am not joking.
Yes.
And how can one have any sympathy with people like that? And I don't know how our president got into this. He has no particular interest now.
No.
They all made a huge fortune. He's not very interested in this kind of business. I don't suppose he ever enjoyed these 10 years. It's just Odinga, who's now wanting now is my chance, he says. So I think everything is done for what they want.
Yes.
Nothing is done to see now how will people be affected by that. It's not done at all by them. It's clear. And when they have these enormous meetings, they don't listen to people. They just make speeches. It is not the way I think one should run a government, or one should talk to the people. Is 100% different from what we did in Bomas.
Yash, if I can just ask your perspective on what the implications are for when this kind of approach is adopted, because the 2010 Constitution created a Supreme Court, and I heard it described the other day that we've seen the increasing judicialization of our politics. That as the politicians realign and manipulate, increasing pressure is put on the judiciary. People retreat to the judiciary to seek relief. Again, the judiciary seems to be under also tremendous pressure from the political class. I just wanted to get your reflections on this, because the Constitutional Court, our Supreme Court is a new creation that came with a new Constitution.
Yeah, well, I think that's a very good point you have made, because when you look at the Constitution, there's a very good balance between the 3 major institutions: the Parliament, the Presidency, and the Judiciary.
Yes.
And I think it worked very well, that balance.
Yes.
Each had clearly defined function, resources, and so on. But some years ago, our president thought he didn't like the judiciary.
Yeah.
And they were not taking his orders, perhaps. They were making him orders.
Yes.
And they imagined president being told, but that's exactly the purpose of judiciary. You tell the president, now you are not doing this according to the law. And when they have done that, the president has got very upset. has ignored the ruling given by the judiciary. So the problem with the judiciary is now that the president has no respect for it. Their financial allowances have been cut down. The laws or the judgments that are passed by the courts, in which the government must implement, they don't implement them.
Yes.
And they are really making it very hard for the judiciary to perform their functions. I think we have, not a bad judiciary, but they're not given a chance anymore now, and their financial allowance has been reduced a great deal, so I think they are fighting away. The litigation rate has gone up a lot.
Yes.
Just because people have no other remedy.
Yeah.
The only thing they can say, we can go to court.
Yeah.
And the courts have been good. There have been debates. There have been arguments. So the arguments by the parties who go to court, and all of that is of quite high standard. But then what if the government won't respect it? And that is what's been happening. And the example where 41 appointments made to the judiciary, sabotage that. Now, under the Constitution, he has absolutely no right to interfere with the appointments. Stupidly, they have said, well, he will just sign. I don't think that was actually in the Constitution we did in Burma. But I think the whole system is really out of control. A few people want to dominate. And what worries me is that the changes they might make, and I'm still not clear, they're not very clear what changes they would make, is going to confuse people. And this whole sense that we had developed in 2004 of we are one nation, we are working towards not ethnicity, that's the cultural thing. We are working towards a nation. That whole thing in the Constitution, the preamble, everything is about a nation, a nation. And this is why if you look at the system of devolution that we had, was really to bring people of different tribes and make them feel we are one. So the structure of devolution was totally different from what these people have adopted, which is a disaster. We know that increasingly, as even the Senate cannot work out how much money each group should get. You can see we are getting into a lot of trouble by the virtue of our, 2-3 stupid judges. Politicians. And I think we have to realize that political leaders have been the greatest harm to this country.
Yes. If I was to ask you, if President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga were to call you again and say, okay, Professor, the last time we met, very sorry, we didn't listen to you. We're in a mess. Everything's stuck in the Senate. We can't even agree on revenue sharing. We can't really agree on how to divide up these seats between the tribes, because now even the small tribes are quite unhappy and not showing up for rallies. How do we get ourselves out of this paper bag into which Kenya is now we're stuck in this bag where we are mangling the Constitution? And if they were to call you and say, okay, Prof, okay, we would like to listen to you, how do we fix this?
Well, I'll call you and say, what shall I do, John?
I'll call you.
Well, I would give it a lot of thought before I say yes or no. I think on the whole, I would be saying I would rather not,
Okay.
because they have shown no consistency in the past. They have not shown that they care about Kenyans. So I would have very little reason to say now they have really changed.
Okay.
Now, because I gave them a very good opportunity when in the very early days, when they invited me, and I was in their internal team for a few weeks, few meetings, traveled with them to the country, well, Nairobi and so on. And then they got rid of me. Because they felt, well, I was not just following what they were saying. I had my own views. You know, this is what happened. And the team, which is now the team for this purpose, 6, 8, 9, 10 of them, I spent some time with them to begin with.
Correct.
And then I withdrew because they were not, they didn't really want me. Not that I withdrew. They just stopped inviting me to these meetings.
It's the BBI team. Yeah. I get the sense, Yash, from you of a certain, at this very moment, a certain disappointment with the way things have gone. But let me ask you. I know you remain active in mentoring and supporting a whole range of formations and initiatives in Kenya. What continues to give you hope, despite this rather gloomy outlook around what our politicians are doing to the Constitution? What continues to give you hope? I know that
I don't think I have much hope, but I just feel that I have to do what I can.
Yes.
For our community. I'm not being very arrogant. I don't have any great skills. I have some experience. I think people respect me here.
Absolutely.
But I feel that maybe things will change.
Yes.
But you asked me what I would really recommend.
Yes.
What I would recommend, please let us go back to 2004 Constitution. You have never any experience. But the number of people who got involved, you know about this,
yes.
Involved in that constitution making. All over the country, all different tribes, people who were fighting before, ethnicity.
Yeah.
I don't belong to Nairobi or Kenya.
Yes.
My neighbors are across there, or Zanzibar is my home.
Yeah.
They have just taken the coast from us.
Yes.
That kind of approach. Now, all this was washed away. People could feel, well, this is my country too. I am sitting here with the team for a year. We are talking, when we are writing the draft. They really felt very engaged. Now, I would really like to renew that sense of oneness. If you look at what's happening in the counties now,
yes,
counties, in our view, were supposed to be an instrument of bringing together.
Yes.
Now they have become an instrument of conflict, without doubt.
Yes.
Even Odinga and his father are now fighting to show how much they're just not agreeing with each other anymore. And I agree with the son.
Yes.
And so I think we're in such a desperate situation today, and I don't know what the solution is. I would very much appreciate your comments on this.
What we'll do is we'll schedule another interview where perhaps you can ask me questions. But yes, I agree. It's a perilous moment where a lot of advances.
Very, very, very perilous. That's the right word.
Yeah, and there's the fog of confusion. So there's a lot of word thrown around, but actually it's a fairly confused, unclear situation. But I'm sure I'll be coming back to you on this whenever this BBI report is issued and we know what proposals they're going to make. But before we end, our time is running out. Yash, you spent a long time in Hong Kong, a distinguished career there as in other places. And actually, when you came to Kenya, if I'm not wrong, you came from Hong Kong, from the Hong Kong University.
Yes.
And there have been fairly significant changes in Hong Kong as well in terms of its relationship with China, with a new security law being passed. You know Hong Kong well. What does this portend for Hong Kong and Southeast Asia and you know, as China becomes more assertive, as you know, China is one of our really major partners now in a variety of ways, mainly economic here in Kenya. So this is something that matters to us now as well.
Well, I have observed what's happening in Hong Kong with great sorrow, because Hong Kong had become a very important fair country under this agreement between Britain giving up its sovereignty over it and China itself to give a lot of autonomy to the Hong Kong people. And the Hong Kong people, I know them well, I spent many years there, are people with great skills, great knowledge, and what's more, great values. During the last years of their rule, Britain realized that they couldn't continue rule for long, and they brought in, you know, the local people in office and so on. And I thought they had developed an extremely good system of economy, of partnerships, of human rights, and the constitution that they have, which I've written whole 600 pages of interpretation.
Yes.
I thought they had a great future, and they did have a great future.
Yes.
They were prosperous, they were fairness, and it was almost an ideal place. And then they, on the mainland, they appointed a president who is now the president, who is actually very stupid, really stupid. I think he has made, he's responsible for much of the harm done to Hong Kong today. There are very clear legal rules about what Hong Kong can do, what China can do, what China must not do, and they have broken the law completely. I have been following it closely, what's happening, reading a lot of the stuff there, what this government is doing. I think he is doing a lot of harm, and the president, you know, when he was appointed, believe it or not, said, "I am here for life." Yeah. This statement he made publicly, "I am here for life." Whereas they also, on the mainland, have rules about how long to stay. Yeah. But nobody did anything to him in China. And so he has been very negative force. But now they don't really care about Hong Kong. They have taken it over again. Yes. And the people who really developed Hong Kong and its wonderful economy, social life, universities, are being imprisoned. It is unbelievable what is going on. And of course, you know, Britain, which has an obligation under the agreement under which they gave up power, are not using they could make a lot more fuss for the government, mainland government.
That's right.
But saying it. So the people in Hong Kong feel very let down by foreign groups. Though there's the odd speech, but nothing is done substantively.
Yeah.
So I'm very sad about it, and I think Hong Kong was one model for the world, and now people are being imprisoned. People I worked with, both in the university and in the legal profession, because I did some work in the law as well, are all in trouble. They are in prison. Recently they put 3 people in jail, 3 of the most distinguished people in the country.
Yeah.
So what can we do about it when our politicians start behaving like this? In China, who knows what ambitions they have? And I think we have been a bit trapped by China here.
Yeah.
There's a lot one could say about this, and I've written an article about this.
That's right.
But we have really been fallen into their hands.
I'll just finish off, with a question which perhaps we'll be able to finish in our next conversation. It seems to me that liberal constitutionalism is under challenge around the world. I mean, I look at what's happening in America, in Hungary, in India, the world's largest democracy, Poland, across entire swathes of Latin America and Africa. Is this something that you have reflected on, that, these challenges, that this sort of reactionary resurgence that is sort of renting asunder sort of the culture of liberal constitutionalism?
Well, you put it situation very well. I agree with that. I can't say I have given a great deal of thought. In my old age, and I am very old, I think I can't solve the world's problems. And I am now very much, involved in our own country.
Yeah.
Any time I have, I was working a lot with the slum areas.
Yes.
And will continue, but I couldn't be personally there because of the virus and so on.
Yes.
But there I'm hoping that this whole group of people who are now emerging from social service groups,
the social justice,
they're becoming a force, could become a force for good.
Yes, absolutely.
And I am working with them. Great. And I'm hoping that we can make changes to our own country through them. I'll be lucky if we make progress. Don't ask me to solve the world's problems now.
Well, that I like that, because that's a hopeful note to end this particular chapter of our conversation on, especially your work with the social justice centers, the Madare Social Justice Center, the Dadora Social Justice Center, and others, and we'll be able to continue the other conversations later. But one of the things that shows how totally Kenyan you are, and how totally Kenyan, how we regard you as our guru. It's our culture that it doesn't matter the older you get, the more we will bring our problems to you to solve. So, I am sorry, but it comes with the esteem and love that people have for you, Yash.
Yeah, well, I will certainly come back to the elephant. Don't you get restful, if that's the right term. No, it's been wonderful to talk to you again, and I'm afraid this virus has stopped us from more social contact. But but it's wonderful to see you, to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
I'll wait very happily for the next meeting we have.
Thank you very much, Yash. Thank you very much, Jill. We'll be back.
Yes.